good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the session on setting question paper.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Professor Sunil. Thank you for conveying the message, and I thank all the participants. About 25 participants have already sent their question papers, though they were sent quite late, but I could only check those which were received yesterday or prior to 10 o'clock today. So I'll be using those question papers during the interaction. Anything anybody would like to say first, or should I start with my presentation? So no questions. Okay, welcome. So let me share the entire screen with all of you. So friends, here you can see the title for interaction setting question paper. Now why it becomes important? Written tests, they still dominate the scene of assessing the student's performance in theory. Whether it's a question of class test, mid-semester test, end-term test, all these are nothing but examples of our written test, and there is heavy emphasis on class test, mid-semester test as far as internal assessment is concerned. And then there is end-term examination, which is your external examination, which is held at the end of the semester. Now, when we say written tests, they are still dominating the scene of student assessment. That means if really...
Your voice is breaking.
Hello? Ma'am, is it not clear?
Ma'am, you are audible and it is visible.
Just a minute. Let me check the internet connection right now. I think...
Ma'am, you are audible. Okay. You are audible and you are...
Audible, eh?
Ma'am, you are audible as well as your presentation is also visible properly. Maybe their side there is some network issue.
Okay, ma'am, just wait for 1 or 2 minutes and maybe you are able to see and hear me. Right?
You are audible and we can see your presentation also.
Okay. So, when we say the written test, at present the system which is in vogue, there are a number of problems which are there in the quality of question paper, which is the basis for the written test, because written test requires a good quality question paper. And any good tool of assessment will have these characteristics that I'll discuss certain characteristics, but the quality of question paper, why I say is poor, because over a period of time, we have taken up few studies, and whenever there is a session on SQP with me, then I do analyze number of question papers sent by the participants from different institutions who are the participants to the program. And the very first thing, the studies which we took up, 3 to 4 studies, one student also took up a detailed study on analysis of question paper, and it has been found that there is inadequate coverage of content. There are few institutions where it is compulsory for the students to attempt all the questions, but in majority of the universities, the rule is attempt any 5 out of the 8, or if unit-wise it is divided into unit 1, 2, 3, then there are choices inbuilt into various units. So the very first thing we see is that all the topics which are included in the syllabus, they do not form a part of the question paper. So very few institutions, I would say, go for internal choices if unit-wise test is prepared, question paper is prepared. So when there is no adequate coverage, that means the validity of our becomes low. Second thing which has been highlighted is that 80 to 85% of the questions, they test only lower level abilities. Now, when you say lower level abilities, then our focus was, it was primarily on remembering and understanding, and as some of the questions on apply, rarely. And then 15 to 20% weightage in the question paper is given to the higher order abilities called analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So most of the questions, they come with define, compare, explain, enlist, state, describe. These are some of the questions which are there, but people don't go beyond application, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Hardly those question papers with the design component is there. Maybe we find design questions. Then it is also found that many times when we say it is only testing, remembering, understanding, so very trivial things they are asked. Defining, stating the measurement units, enlisting the types, etc. These are not the questions which should actually be posed as far as the end semester examination is concerned. Maybe we are trying to include these questions in our class tests or mid-semester test, but end semester test also we find these types of questions appearing in the question paper. Then there are instances where incorrect framing of questions is done. Now, just give you one simple example where you will find that in majority of the question papers, you will come across a question, write a short note on. No, this is not the way to write a question. When you say short note on, and you say 5G. Now, a person who is familiar with its architecture or the structures, maybe he is focusing more on that. A person who is familiar with the applications, he'll be focusing more on the applications of 5G. Or a person who is familiar with the difference between 4G and 5G, he starts explaining the differences between the 4G and the 5G. So different responses you are getting from different students because you have given them the freedom that whatever they know, they can include in the question paper. So it is not getting this similar kind of responses where we can compare the performance of one with the other, because still the evaluation system or assessment of students is normative. That is, we compare the performance of one student with the other, with the group to which he belongs. Then repetition of questions. Sometimes it happens that over the years there is repetition of question. That is somehow, I would say, if we can avoid, it is good. But I have come across a paper in one of the courses in manufacturing where same question was repeated thrice. Now you can see why it was one mark question, then it came as a part of restricted essay, then there was essay type question, extended essay, even then the definition of the term was included. So repetition of question somehow needs to be avoided, because many times we look to the previous question papers and the tendency is something important you think, but that has come last year, you find it should be repeated. So repeat it. Doesn't make any difference. No. Try to tend to avoid that. That I'll come later on. But there's questions where grammatical mistakes in questions are also there. I'll take up your questions and then supplement this. Is our, and why is it essential? Why it is essential? Why is it essential? There are different ways of putting the question paper. Then asking irrelevant question. Now this drawback comes in when the paper is set by a person who's not teaching the course. Otherwise, there is a lower tendency to have irrelevant questions in the question paper. Somebody from outside the system or higher educational institution than yours, then there may be somehow one or two questions, one which is irrelevant, which is out of the syllabus, and you know that there are complaints filed by the students in the examination. And this happens primarily in end-term examination, right? And then inordinately lengthy. Because when we set a question paper as paper setter, we hardly try how much time will it take for the student to attempt that. We all have only many times assumptions, and those assumptions are also not tested by the paper setter. But I'll give you one example of my head of the department previously, Professor Dheer. Whenever he set a question paper, he used to take it and find out how much time each question is going to take on the part of the learner. And you keep average learner in your mind, that is, or maybe the one who could take the maximum time and think that this much time would be required to attempt a question paper, and then finally set the question paper. Then obviously there are problems with the mark allocation. Maybe the question is divided into three parts, A, B, C, and you have given 5 marks. Now nobody knows where you are going to have 1.5, or 2 marks, or where you have 1 mark and 2 mark, 2 mark. So you are leaving this to the examiner who is going to see the answer scripts. And this happens number of times. And then even if in numericals 3 to 4 values are to be calculated by the person, then you are not specifying how many marks you are going to allocate to the ABC part in that numerical portion also. Or it also happens that if you have given 10 marks, right, and you are saying draw and explain, these are the questions which are explained with the help of a block diagram. So how many marks you are going to give to the diagram, how many marks you are going to give the explanation, that is not indicated anywhere in the question paper. So students take it, attempt it, and the examiner by his own criteria provide the marking. So objectivity somehow decreases. So here we see that questions of reliability, validity, objectivity, they're under question mark. And I was looking at the schedule for this, and I found that this has been dealt by Professor Dutt earlier in the very first session. He has dealt with the characteristics of good evaluation. Those are common with good assessment tool also, because any good assessment tool needs to be valid. Now, when I say valid, that means if I'm talking in terms of question paper, it is the adequate coverage of the content matter is the first one. That 100% of the syllabus which you have covered, if it is end semester examination, or if it is a mid semester, then probably 50% of the syllabus which you have covered, that needs to be included in the question paper. If it is going to the class test, maybe 1/3, I don't know how many, say 3 to 4 topics you have covered. So all those 3 to 4 topics need to be included in your question paper. The second thing to enhance the validity of question paper is that we know that in cognitive domain, there are 6 different levels. So there has to be a balance when it comes to including questions, especially when you are preparing a class test or mid-semester test. Then remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. All 6 levels of learning outcomes need to be assessed, but there may be courses where you don't go beyond applying. Then remembering, understanding, and applying need to be included in that. So validity, that means the learning outcomes, if you have for all the 6 levels, all 6 level types of questions should be there to assess the learning outcomes. If it is only restricted to 3, then those 3 levels may be assessed. Then it is very, very important that the intention of the paper setter, they be made clear to the learner. So what is it that you expect a learner to write, answer? What kind of answer you expect from him? So when you say enlist the advantages and disadvantages, and you have put this question only for 2 marks. So how many advantages and disadvantages you are expecting from a learner? Maybe there are 6, but how many for 2 marks? Even if you give half mark to one advantage or one disadvantage, at the most the 4 you can expect from the learner. So that intention is not made clear to the learner. Somebody is writing 6, somebody is writing 2, somebody is writing 4, and then depending upon your own whims and fancies, you are giving the marks. So that means you are decreasing the validity of your you need to just a minute. तो मैं सब मैं क्लास में हूँ, बाद में बात करती हूँ. So validity, 3 important aspects, and there need not be any grammatical mistakes if you really want to have the valid question paper. Then comes the reliability. Reliability, as might have been explained, refers to consistency of scores. So the more objectivity you can bring in scoring, the higher will be the reliability of your test. So this may be in terms of intra-rater reliability or inter-rater reliability. So when we say the same examiner examines the answer scripts again, then there should be high correlation between the 2 sets of scores. Or there are 2 separate examiners, they are doing the evaluation of or checking the answer scripts. Again, there has to be high correlation between the 2 sets of scores, which is not happening at present when the students go in for re-evaluation, and we see there are marked differences between the scores obtained in the first evaluation and the second evaluation. So reliability is consistency of scores. And then objective, whatever tool you are using, there should not be any subjectivity involved in it. But when we talk in terms of extended essays, then subjectivity is more. When we talk in terms of true, false, multiple choice questions or fill in the blanks, the objectivity is the highest. But we cannot go by just including objective type questions. We need to include short answer, restricted essay, and long extended essay type questions. And for that matter, the division of marks within the elements that need to be specified to bring it more objectivity. And that's why there is a term which you will be using, maybe you are using those rubrics, and they in your scoring, the higher the objectivity, the greater is the reliability. Then practicality. So any good assessment tool needs to be feasible. You should be able to implement that. That is there. So that means if 3 hours, so students should be able to attempt it in 3 hours and so on. If we are talking in terms of the written question paper. And then the last one here is missing, that is utility, that any good assessment tool, whatever may be the results, that should be utilized for improving or enhancing the quality of learning on the part of the learner or improving the quality of the assessment too. So that I'll discuss when I'll just now we come to steps in setting a question. Let me complete quickly, then I'll take up your question papers, and then I've done some analysis which I'll share. Steps in setting a question paper. Normally, what do? Half an hour before, we sit, just open the textbook, few question papers, and then start preparing the question paper. But a systematic process involves that we must first clearly indicate or know the topics which we are likely to cover. Because if it is, as I said, class test, maybe 3 to 4 topics have been covered. If it is going to be end semester, the whole syllabus is going to be covered. For example, if this is building construction comprising of 11, maybe the first class test only takes care of the introduction, the foundations, the brick masonry. But if it is end semester, it is going to be the all the 11 topics which need to be covered. And here, then we must have the knowledge of the learning outcomes. For example, if it is introduction to building material, then what are the learning outcome for this particular topic? Foundations, brick masonry. And once you have a list of learning outcomes, you can put a tick mark which particular learning outcome you would like to assess in this particular class test, then class test 2, and so on, so forth, right? So you have to prioritize depending upon the importance of those concepts, principles, theories, models which you have dealt in the topic, that what is it that you would like to assess in this particular test paper. And then the next is determine the weightages to be assigned to various topics. At present, what do? Simply, if there are, we give equal weightage, or we give too much weightage to one topic and lesser weightage to another topic. What should be the basis for assigning weightages to the various topics? And here I would say, this you can see the very first thing, say I said the class test, I am just including 3 topics. The total marks may be 30, 60, depending upon whatever is the rules they are prescribed for your university, for the internals, or your institution rule if it's an autonomous institution. So first thing that should be taken into account is the instructional time. Now, this instructional time is specified in the curriculum document, right? So I'm just picking up the hours which have been given to the 3 topics: introduction to building materials 7 hours, foundations 4 hours, brick masonry 4 hours. That means the total instructional time had been 15 hours, right? Then comes, we try to calculate the proportion of marks to be allocated to each topic. Now here, if I say 7 divided by 15 and the total marks are 30, so that means 14 marks are to be given to the topic number 1, because I've spent 7 hours teaching that particular topic. Maybe this is foundation and it's elementary, introductory topic, but people should be familiar with the terminologies and so on. So in class test 1, giving this weightage is justified. Then foundations. Foundation 4 by 15 into 30, so 8 marks. Brick masonry, again 4 by 15 into 30, 8 marks. And then you take into consideration how do we arrive at final weightage. We try to take into account which is the topic which will have more application in the world of work or the real life. So depending upon their importance in the real world, we try to modify the weightages up to 2 to 3%, not more than that. So here you can see I have reduced for the first topic. This is my hypothesis, but as a teacher of a particular discipline, you should consider which topic is more applicable. Then you can bring in little modification, 2 to 3% in the marks to be allocated to the various topics. And here I have taken 2 marks and I have added to foundations, and then brick masonry 8. So the total number remains 30, 12 to the first topic, 10 to the second topic, 8 to the third topic. Now once you are through with the weightages to be given to the various topics for the class test, and this is for your the final test, 11 topics, and then you need to work out. And here learning outcome you have to pick up, and if it is going to be the end term test, then the course outcomes you must take into account and try to find out which topic is contributing to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you have that chart with you. You have already the alignment which is available. Then you try to prepare questions according to the course outcome 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Then here, when you shift your focus, then the next step is preparing a table of specification. Now, I have always been saying that this should also be a part of the curriculum document, and I'm happy to share with all of you that NITL had been preparing model curriculum documents for various courses, and they have started including a table of specification therein. What is this table of specification? Because to increase or enhance the validity of the question paper, what is needed is that we need to have the balanced question paper. So here you can see 12 marks were to be given to topic 1. Then you prepare a table of specification depending upon the learning outcomes of this particular topic, that how much weightage you are going to give to the learning outcomes at the remembering level, understanding level, applying level, and higher than applying. That is analyzing, evaluating, and creating, or in other words, you can say problem solving. So 2, 4, and 6 is the kind of distribution which you have prepared. Then foundation, again, keeping in mind the learning outcome specified for the topic, you try to again determine how much weightage you are going to give to the various levels of learning outcome. And you have already prioritized, you have already put a tick mark, which is the learning outcome you would like to assess in class test 1. Then brick masonry, again you have given the marks. Now, if this kind of exercise is done once, this is for the curriculum. So civil engineering department may do for various courses once, and it is available. Minor modification, if you bring in change, current developments are there, changes in technology are there, and you want to bring in change, you can bring that. And this will help you in ensuring that you are having questions at different levels of learning outcome, assessing different levels of learning outcomes. So remembering also you are giving 4, understanding you are giving 8 marks, applying you are giving 8 marks, and higher than applying you are trying to give 10 marks. Now, this is hypothetical example, but as a subject teacher, you will be more thorough with it. So you can ensure that your question paper is a balanced one and not only assessing the lower level abilities, but it is assessing all those levels which are essential for a diploma holder or for a degree holder per se. Then once you have decided this, then the task of the paper setter is to decide, is he going to use only selection type items, or is he going to use the supply type items, right? So when we say selection, this orientation might have been given to you or is likely to come. That selection means where you have provided the responses and the student has to select from the given response, which may include alternate response. When you say true, false, say there are 2 types of engine based on fuel, petrol and diesel engine. Whether it is true or false, the statement, so T and F is put, so alternate response type. Matching type items, where you are enlisting the name of scientists and you are giving the principles which they have enunciated and they have to match. Very few of us would be using matching type at the higher educational institutions, but majority of us might be going for multiple choice type questions if objective type questions are included. So multiple choice, where you have a statement followed by 4 to 5 alternatives and there is only one right answer. Then assertion reasoning type items, they can be used. Then supply type questions, extended essay. Now, for example, explain the function of the various parts of IC engine. This is extended essay, maybe 10 marks or 20 marks you are giving to this. But then this question can be converted into restricted essay, saying that explain the function of the following five parts of the IC engine. And you are enlisting those 5 parts, and then you are saying 5 into 2 is equal to 10. Each part, if you are stating the function, it is of 2 marks, total is 10. Right? Then short answer type. Short answer, you all know, differentiate between 5G and 4G, or differentiate between stack and array, and so on. Then fill in the blank. Fill in the blank, you are leaving a blank at the end. V is directly proportional to, or current is directly proportional to what? Voltage is directly proportional to. Okay. Then you can, once you have decided that you will have both selection type items and supply type, the universities which permit, maybe you are giving 20 to 25% weightage to selection type items in the whole paper. And I still remember then when we started our ME programs in 1992, at that time, the university rule, we were off campus to Thapar, so they had that 20 marks were given to the objective type questions. So there was a question paper, 20 marks, which was all selection type items, and that was circulated with in the beginning. Once that was over for half an hour, then the student could start attempting the rest of the paper. So once they submit that answer script, then they will go for a supply type questions, right? So it is whether your university allows that or not. Once you have taken a decision, then you start writing questions and items depending upon the format which you have selected. Now here I am only giving you few examples, directly translating from the learning outcomes the questions. Because if you recall, yesterday we have done this, define the following terms, and you are enlisting. There were laws, state cement ratio law, state Charles law, or there are 4 operations involved in microprocessor. So list, just name the 4 operations, enlist various types of seeds, or name various painting processes, or enumerate any 2 qualities of good. 2, only 2, maybe half mark is given to each. Now these are some examples of questions at remembering level. Understanding, derive the relationship between static temperature and stagnation. Then heat addition to a gas may cool the gas. Explain with the help of proper HS diagram, right? Then explain the difference, or simply differentiate between normal and oblique shocks. Few examples: RAM effect, differentiate, explain the classification, right? So you can see as we are simply taking the learning outcomes and inputting a question to the learner in the question paper. When it comes to applying, now applying level, we all know that you are going to include numerical situations, but those situations have not been dealt in the classroom. These situations are all new situations. So if you are including a new situation and the student is asked to apply a learned concept or a rule in that situation, it is you are assessing learning outcomes at the applying level. So you can see here that one of the persons need to address a huge crowd. A system is to be designed in such a manner that everybody is able to hear clearly and properly without any disturbance. Identify the suitable circuit to boost the voice signal and explain its functionality. Now, this has been at the degree level. A ladder 5.0 meter long rests on the ground horizontally, leans against a smooth vertical at an angle of 20 degrees with the vertical. The weight of the ladder is 900 and it's at the middle. The ladder is at the point of sliding when man of inner stands at itne distance from the bottom of the ladder, calculate the coefficient of friction between the ladder and the floor, a new situation where the rule is to be applied. Likewise, calculating the distance to be traveled in each of the following cases. When r is greater than 1, where 0 is less than r or less than 1, r is equal to 1. So the person is given a situation and he has to apply the learned rules. Again, you can see these are little complex questions, difficult questions. Difficulty is little on the higher side. Then analyzing level. Now here, I have yesterday also focused phenomenon, or process, or a consequence, then it is at the understanding level. But if you have given him a situation and he tries to apply the learned knowledge and then identify the reasons, then it is at the analyzing level. So here you can see first example, explain the reasons for transmission losses in a given locality. Maybe you have given him the total plan and how the electricity is being laid down and used, or you are taking the students to the situation and then they are making their observations and then they are identifying the possible reasons for transmission losses in that particular locality, or a program written in C. You have given a program. Now he goes through each and every part and then find out the problem. Analyze the reasons for derailing of a bullet train. Now this is, or maybe analyze the reasons for crash of helicopter. As we have seen, there is a case which is available, a recent incident, and you have picked up the case, you have built up the scenario, and the student is asked to analyze the reason. So you are omitting the probable reasons which are included in cases when they are published or when they appear in the newspaper, but you are only explaining the context in which that happened. And then the student analyze the reason or analyze the effect of pandemic on the Indian economy, or the causes for demotivation of employee in the given organization. So you can see that a real life situation is given and then the person is trying to analyze the reason. Otherwise, it will be only at the understanding level. And here, all those where you have to determine the worth and take a make a judgment and take a decision. So select an appropriate engine for sports utility vehicle of given specification and justify the selection. Select the type of reinforced concrete you will prefer to design a bridge. These are all questions. Write a program, then judge the adequacy of resources and technique. All these are the questions which involve a component of judgment and decision. Then creating level, you can see design, write a user-friendly computer program to design a torsion reinforcement in rectangle and flanked beams and plot the cross-section reinforcement details on a graphic plotter. Formulate a 5-year plan for the institute development, or maybe 5-year plan for the country, India. So these are just few examples. But now these questions you can think of that at the remembering, understanding level, it is easy to convert these questions into the multiple choice, true, false type, or short answer type, or fill in the blank. And whenever it comes applying, analyzing, evaluating and creating, it is always good to have questions which may be of restricted essay or extended essay type questions if you want to assess the higher level abilities of the learner. Multiple choice questions can be written at any level, but it is too difficult to frame questions at the to assess higher order abilities. So make sure that you have a balanced kind of question paper and you are able to include the various levels. Now, these are some examples. Now, once the questions have been written by you, this is not final. What we need to do is read it again and again and edit it as many times as is required so that it becomes clearer to the learner. And what is needed is that you can give it for review to one of your colleagues who's very good in the subject, or maybe a senior, or a person who has been designated that role, that he can moderate your question paper, gives you the feedback also, or maybe give the feedback. So if there is any moderation committee that has been constituted at the department level, just give them the questions and they can give you the feedback with respect to where the changes are required, and edit it. And then once you edit, then your role is to assemble the test. Now, when assembling the test, any good question paper has 4 different aspects: the general information, what is then instructions, then questions, then the mark test. These are the 4 important elements in any question paper. So what is general information? General information includes your institution name or your university name, the branch for which the paper is prepared, the semester or the year, the course code, and total marks to be allocated, that is 100 marks, then time allowed, 3 hours, 2 hours, 1.5 hours, depending upon how much hours. Now, when I analyzed the question paper, name of the college or the university in most of the cases is missing. This is one general statement which I'm making. Even in some of the question paper which I analyzed, which you have sent to me, even there, but many times as when it is used as a sessional test, mid-semester test, then people think it is not essential because you are sitting in the college, you are giving the paper, so it is not essential, right? But in general, these are the requirements of general information. It should be complete in all respects to avoid any hassles like गलती से कोई पेपर खुल गया, the हो जाता ना, because the course code is not given. Maybe the course is common for 2-3 different branches. If the branch is not given, again that kind of mistake can happen. Then instructions are given at the beginning of the question paper after the general information. But in one of the papers which was sent to me, I found that it was merged with the general information. So instructions should never be merged with the general information, should appear after you have completed the general information. And the common instructions, say attempt any 5 questions. Okay, attempt in total 5 questions. Question number 1 is compulsory. From unit 1 and 2, you can select any 2 questions. If this is the kind of, okay, you have 3 lines and you are completing the instruction. But if your instructions vary from unit 1 to unit 2 to unit 3, then you can have unit-wise instruction placed in the question paper. First, unit 1 की क्या instruction है, unit 2 की क्या instruction है, unit 3 की. And these need to be, you can read out, complete, concise, brief होनी चाहिए, not more than 1 to 2 minutes of the learner, should be correct, simple, section. And in many of the question paper, I find missing data can be assumed. Now, different students will be assuming different data. So the teacher will be calculating all time, the examiner will be calculating by changing the figure every time. So I would request this practice should go. Wherever the numerical is given and data is given, just give them the data which is essential. And if, say, for example, design, then they can have the liberty to assume certain data, right? Then correct, simple, section-wise, I have already said, and they need to be grammatical correct, right? ठीक है, अभी आपके क्वेश्चन पेपर पे ज़्यादा टाइम लगाऊंगी, then questions and items 3-14 है ना, okay, we have time. And questions, they need to be relevant. Relevant means from the content which is part of the curriculum. They should measure significant outcome. So आपका ये नहीं है कि डिफाइन यूनिट्स, ये नहीं, इन लिस्ट, ऐसे क्वेश्चन कम होने चाहिए. मोर एम्फेसिस शुड बी ऑन द हायर लेवल. करेक्टली फ्रेम्ड, प्रॉपरली सीक्वेंस्ड. इजी आइटम्स आ रही हैं पहले, फिर मॉडरेटली डिफिकल्ट, फिर डिफिकल्ट. ऐसा नहीं होता कई बार. मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम वो गो बाय द टॉपिक वन. टॉपिक वन को कवर करते हैं, फिर टॉपिक टू, टॉपिक थ्री, टॉपिक फोर, और यूनिट वन, यूनिट टू, यूनिट थ्री, ऐसे चलता है. बट विद इन दैट you can always think of having simple question first and the difficult one later, then grammatically correct. अब देखिए मार्क डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की बात कर रहे हैं. प्रॉपर एलोकेशन टू द क्वेश्चन. और देखिए रिमेम्बरिंग, अंडरस्टैंडिंग को अगर आप 2 नंबर दे रहे हैं तो एप्लीकेशन, अप्लाइंग को आप 2 नंबर तो नहीं देंगे. There should be more marks for the higher level ability. So ये बहुत ध्यान रखने की जरूरत है. And then as I said, simple question है तो उसको कम मार्क्स, डिफिकल्ट जैसे ही डिफिकल्टी बढ़ती जा रही है उसके नंबर बढ़ते जा रहे हैं. And then distribution of marks, which is missing in many cases, subsections or parts, that is essential. And higher ability level को ज्यादा नंबर, difficult questions को ज्यादा. And it is a good practice that the person who sets the question paper, he only provides a marking scheme along with. अब मार्किंग स्कीम देखिए, अभी एक इंस्टेंस जो मैं हर बार कोट करती हूँ, in one of the numericals in civil engineering paper, a person was given 0 and another examiner gave him 60. अब दोनों को बुलाया गया. एक कहता है मैंने रिजल्ट देके, द आउटकम देके उसका फाइनल नंबर दे दिए. अनदर सेज आई हैव गॉन थ्रू द स्टेप्स एंड आई हैव गिवन द मार्क्स. अब गलती किसकी है? इट इज नॉट द लर्नर्स मिस्टेक. अब थर्ड एग्जामिनर, एंड देन इट वाज डिसाइडेड, ही आल्सो वेंट स्टेप बाय स्टेप करके उन्होंने उसको मार्क्स दिए. होना क्या चाहिए? व्हेनेवर देयर इज अ न्यूमेरिकल, इट यू शुड नॉट गो बाय द फाइनल calculation work, but should go by whether the procedure, the method which has been adopted by the learner is correct. Calculation में कहीं गलती हो गई है तो in real life he is going to use all types of gadgets and maybe he is not involved in calculation. Calculation work is done by the computer itself. आना चाहिए, but आप उसको ज्यादा नंबर नहीं देंगे. So mark schemes becomes very important when it is extended essay, restricted essay which is divided into parts, and to bring in more objectivity in the scoring component, mark distribution is essential. Now let me just take up, this is a brief orientation to you towards how systematic is the process of setting a question paper. Now let me go to the question papers, which I'm taking only sample question paper. I'm not sharing all the question papers with all of you. Okay, so here, though I checked, abhi sabse pehle jo mujhe, the one I received was Manish. Okay, so Manish was the first one to send me technical education, say. Okay, so this was the question paper. आप जब इमेज भेजते हो ना, then I am not able to put my remarks here and I have to add a pop-up window. अब क्वेश्चन पेपर अब देख लीजिए. रोल नंबर, टोटल नंबर ऑफ क्वेश्चंस कितने हैं, 4th सेमेस्टर है, कौन सा है, 2017 ईयर दिया हुआ है, एमई का कोड दिया हुआ है, थर्मल इंजीनियरिंग का पेपर है, टाइम अलाउड दिया है, मैक्सिमम मार्क्स दिए हुए हैं. Now here it is written section A is compulsory. Attempt 2 questions from section B and 2 questions from C. Each question carries equal marks. ठीक है जी. अब ये simple है, brief है, ये note नहीं है. You can simply put as a instruction, right? Note तो नहीं है ये, but anyway. Then अब देखिए, अब जहां तक इनके questions का सवाल है, all the questions which have been a part of this at the master's level, they are primarily at remembering and understanding level. क्यों कह रही हूं मैं? अब देखिए, राइट आंसर इन 2 to 3 लाइन्स. अब देखिए लॉ, स्टेट एवोगैड्रोस लॉ, राइट. अब ये लिखा लॉ, ये डिपेंड करेगा कि बच्चे की हैंडराइटिंग पतली वाली है, छोटी लिखता है वो, या बहुत बड़ा बड़ा लिखता है. व्हाई आई एम पुटिंग अ लिमिट टू दिस की 2 to 3 लाइन्स. लॉ तो एक लाइन में भी खत्म हो सकता है, 2 लाइनों में भी खत्म, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन students handwriting. So I am not concerned with student handwriting. So please avoid this at the master's level. This is not required. Simply write state, right? Define. अब state करा, define करा, दोनों remembering level है. अब देखिए ये question है, what is law of concentration of energy, conservation of energy. What is law of conservation of energy? ये क्वेश्चन अपने आप में गलत है. अब what is law of conservation, आप उसकी स्टेटमेंट ही तो चाहते हो. Why can't you be specific and write state law of conservation of energy? Then write the modes of heat transfer. Okay, write 4 applications of solar. Fine. Then question again, what are the advantages of velocity compound turbine, right? This is the question. It is only of कितने नंबर है ये लिखा नहीं है, I don't know क्यों नहीं नीचे लिखा होगा. This is only 2 marks. अब कितनी एडवांटेजेस आप चाहते हो? You want 4 advantages, 2 advantages, कितनी चाहते हो? So what अब हम यूज करते हैं when it is a oral question in the classroom, we can use what are some of the advantages of this. But when it is a written test, you can say write any 2 advantages or 4 advantages of. Better use start it with verb. Don't write what, right? Write the function of. Is there only one function of economizer? If there is only one, then it is correct. If there are more than one function, it should be functions. Differentiate between ठीक है, explain ठीक है. Then you can see the 10th one. What is free expansion process? Now, what is free expansion? That means, do you want him to explain the process? You want him to give the purpose of this process? क्या चाहते हो? That is not again clear. So there is a need to modify this question. And 10 into 2 तो ठीक हो गया, 20 नंबर का ये सवाल हो गया. बाकी आपने ठीक है. अब देखिए क्वेश्चन नंबर, फिर ये 3 में फिर व्हाट यूज किया, मॉडिफाई दिस. 4th में आपने डिस्कस की है. डिस्कशन कब होती है ऑडियंस मेंबर्स? डिस्कस कब करते हैं हम? 2 or more than 2 persons. पेपर में एग्जामिनेशन में आप अलाउ करते हो डिस्कशन? यू डोंट अलाउ. प्लीज डोंट यूज डिस्कस, राइट? अवॉइड द यूज ऑफ डिस्कस. बाकी ऑलमोस्ट ये फिर व्हाट इज थर्मोडायनेमिक सिस्टम. अब thermodynamic system, you could simply use this, explain thermodynamic system and its classification. Would have been very simple question. अब ये if find out the following cases that whether the steam is wet, saturated and ये सब ठीक है. अब देखिए ओपन एंड क्लोज्ड सिस्टम भी ठीक है. गिव 3 एग्जांपल्स. अब देखिए आपने ओपन एंड क्लोज्ड सिस्टम को डिस्क्राइब करने को कहा है. टोटल मार्क्स आर 5 और उसके बाद आप 3 एग्जाम्पल्स ऑफ ईच ले रहे हो. हाउ वुड यू डिवाइड द मार्क्स इनटू इट्स पार्ट्स? पहले तो डिस्क्राइब करेगा, फिर उसके 3 एग्जाम्पल देगा. तो आपने नहीं लिखा कि कितने कितने नंबर आप किस चीज को देने वाले हो. सो मार्क डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑल्सो रिक्वायर्स लिटिल मॉडिफिकेशन हियर. दिस इज आशीष whose paper was the डिस्कस हो गया. मार्क डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन क्वेश्चन नंबर 7 हो गया. देयर इज ऑल्सो क्वेश्चन ऑन राइट शॉर्ट नोट्स. अब देखिए राइट शॉर्ट नोट्स आपने कहीं इंक्लूड किया होगा इसमें? नहीं, आपके क्वेश्चन पेपर में तो नहीं था. राइट शॉर्ट नोट तो नहीं आया, नहीं. आई डोंट थिंक, मे बी आई हैव पुट अ, हाँ जी ये गलती से आपके क्वेश्चन पेपर में आ गया. सो दिस इज माय ऑब्जर्वेशन विद रिस्पेक्ट टू the question paper. Anything you would like to say, Dr. Manish? Are you there? Audience member? नहीं है शायद.
Yes, ma'am.
अच्छा जी, कोई आपकी ऑब्जर्वेशन है?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. अब देखिए,
Madam, good afternoon to you, madam.
हाँ जी,
Thank you.
Madam, good afternoon. This is Dr. Avinash Kumar from Assam University, Silchar. Since your this one suggestion is very good and very valid, so kindly refer madam, please refer my question paper also, because I know
so
I want to know whether I
I'm
am
coming.
going to
Yours
follow.
is the third one. So your was the third.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. Please consider my question paper also. Thank you, madam.
Ishwara. ये कहाँ गया? I have put your names and I have included those, done my homework. Okay, here. If this is the one I checked or the other one, let me see, because you have sent me to, okay. See, it is State Board of Technical Education Telangana and then diploma examination. ठीक है, applied physics है, code दिया है, tally है, ये इसमें ज़्यादा कोई problem नहीं है. Answer this, ठीक है, each question carries 1 mark. अब देखिए, इनका क्वेश्चन पेपर काफी ठीक बना हुआ है. अब देखिए, इसमें देखिए इन्होंने सिंपली यहाँ पे एक क्वेश्चन ऐड किया है, व्हाट इज फॉरबिडन एनर्जी गैप. नाउ अगेन ये क्लियर नहीं है. यू वांट देम टू क्लियर द कॉन्सेप्ट, यू वांट देम टू गिव द पर्पस ऑफ दिस. जिसको जो आता होगा वो लिख के आ जाएगा. सो ब्रिंग इन यूनिफॉर्मिटी एंड राइट whether you want the person to explain the concept of forbidden energy gap or you want him to explain the purpose of forbidden energy gap. क्या करना चाहते हैं? It is not clear. Then answer the following questions. Each question carries 3 marks. बड़े अच्छे से लिखा हुआ है, इसमें ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम नहीं. अब देखिए यहाँ पे आया क्वेश्चन नंबर 10. बीच में से क्वेश्चन कुछ मिसिंग है शायद, नहीं ठीक है. अब देखिए इन्होंने 10B, outline the concept of doping in semiconductor. Outline. Concept is not outlined. Concept is explained. Or even method is described, but you can use explain, describe the concept of doping in semiconductors and classifying dopants. But you cannot use outline. And this word has been repeated, outline the energy band diagrams. And one thing which I observed, ये गलत हो गया. Then develop the expression. Are they going to develop the expression? Develop the expression for time period of simple. आगे मुझे लगता है something is missing. Simple pendulum, कुछ missing है. Hello, Mr. Dr. Rameshwar, are you with us?
Madam, good evening.
Simple क्या? Period of simple?
Simple pendulum, madam. Actually.
Pendulum होना चाहिए या कुछ है?
Pendulum. Actually, it is not developed. Derive the expression for time period of simple pendulum.
Your voice is not audible. So some word is missing here. Period of simple, कुछ missing है. And you can, हाँ जी.
Derive the expression for time period of simple pendulum.
Pendulum. Okay. So that part is missing here. So even the student is not going to develop the expression. He is going to write the expression or explain the expression or describe the expression for time period of simple pendulum. Then explain the principle. Develop the expression. Again, this is a mistake made here. And what I found in your, so many choices have been given to the learner. Or कितना 13A, 13B, 14A, 14B, 15A, 15B, 16A, 16B, इसी तरह 11A, 11B, सब में और क्यों डाला हुआ है? Why so many choices have been given? Diploma level है इसलिए? Is it a requirement from the board?
Polytechnic.
हाँ जी, पॉलिटेक्निक है तो बोर्ड की रिक्वायरमेंट है या क्या रिक्वायरमेंट है?
What requirement? Actually, it is actually having the question paper pattern is totally 6 units are there now. In 6,
मेरे हिसाब से this choice system is, these are not internal choices because laser and optical fiber ये अलग अलग होते हैं. It's not in the unit 1 or unit 2 और same unit में तो नहीं होंगे कि same unit में है, unit में है, part B में आपने include किया है. Okay.
Telangana Diploma Polytechnic.
Yeah, but so many choices, you need to limit the number of choices you are giving to the student. This is my observation.
It is
Right?
a different pattern of question paper, madam, in Telangana for diploma students actually.
But this is too much, too many. आपने बहुत ज़्यादा दे दी हैं. And then we had Dr. Avinash, आपका paper, एक paper मैंने लिया आपका. Maybe I'll take this one. अभी देखिए इसमें, अब देखिए. ये आपने लिया है, सारे क्वेश्चन रिमेम्बरिंग अंडरस्टैंडिंग लेवल के हैं. दिस इज व्हाट आई हैव एनालाइज्ड. एग्रीकल्चर इंजीनियरिंग 5th सेमेस्टर का ये है. अब देखिए अगेन विच द थिंग आई वाज सेइंग, assume reasonable data wherever required. A paper setter is a subject teacher who has the mastery over the subject. So मुझे नहीं लगता कि we should leave any scope कि उनको कोई assume करना पड़े. So please make sure your numericals, they include each and every data which is required. Then figures in the right margin indicate full marks for the question. ये तो छोटे school going children also know. तो ये लिखने की क्या जरूरत है? This is my humble request that this can be avoided by this time when the student is doing the bachelor's of technology. इतना तो वो familiar है. One good thing I observed here is इन्होंने mark distribution बहुत अच्छे से करी है, 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. So there are as number of parts as are there, and then देखिए अब फोर ठीक बने हुए हैं जो मैंने बिल्कुल टच नहीं किए. Only thing is here in question number 5, 5th B, what are the differences? You could simply state the differences between shoot spillway and drop spillway, or you could write differentiate between rather than what are avoided. जब सामने होता student, we pose this question. Then define the gully erosion and state the stages and process of gully development. अब ये तीन चीजें आप पूछ रहे हैं. The mark distribution you have not given for question number 6A. ये थोड़ा सा ध्यान रखेंगे. Wherever earlier you have given, here it is missing. Then what is the difference again? So simply say differentiate between turbulent and laminar flow, right? Describe free flow, restricted flow of air, which takes. अब इसकी division of marks आपने नहीं दी है. Question number 7A, you have not highlighted the marks to be given to this. So make sure you also indicate. Describe different, बाकी ठीक है. Done. Here आप देखिए, B में देखिए, define stream bank erosion and write various causes of stream bank erosion. Again, write. तो simply enlist करने हैं उसको या explain करना है. Over to the Dr. Avinash.
मैडम enlist
various causes. तो कितने number definition को देने हैं, कितने causes को?
Definition को 2 देने थे, causes को 5 देने थे, क्योंकि almost 10 causes.
So that means you expect how many causes from the learner?
At least 5.
So लिख देना चाहिए था. Define stream bank erosion and enlist any 5 causes of stream bank. So person know that 1 mark for 1 cause will be given. So 2 and 5 you could give that. Then what do you mean by spur? ये क्यों लिखा? Why can't I write explain the meaning of spur? List.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Again, यहाँ पे definition 2 and 3. How many types of spurs are there? Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I did broadly classify two type of spurs are there.
So further classification would be there. So what do you expect? 2 only? You wanted the 2 types of spurs to be enlisted?
Yes, ma'am.
So number भी देने चाहिए थे 3 and 2. Explain the meaning of spur and list the 2 main types of spurs used for controlling the stream bank erosion. Right? So ये some of my observations for your question paper are here. Now let's quickly go to the next one.
Thank you very
Welcome,
much,
sir.
madam. Your valuable suggestion.
Welcome. Slick. So we had
One question
another
from
question.
my side, madam. Madam, please
Hanji?
take one question. What is the differences between the list and enlist? Is there any differences, madam?
No,
List
list
and
or
enlist.
enlist, they can be used as synonyms.
Okay, madam.
List
Okay,
or enlist, right?
okay, madam. Okay,
वो तो
thank you, madam.
synonym ही
Thank
है.
you. Thank you, madam.
This is
Got it,
a
got it.
question paper. I don't know the name, but here I missed the name. बाकी सब ठीक है. इसमें आगे आप देखिए. What is an integrity? Change this question. Do you want them to define it? You want the person to explain the concept? क्या करना है? How to compile PLSQL program? अब how to, is it one word question or do you want him to enlist the procedure or the steps involved in compiling a PLSQL program? That is not clear. Then what is stored sub program? So what is a stored sub program? इसको भी modify करना है question. अब देखिए आपने लिखा भी किया है. 6 parts are there. 2 mark each is there. Marking distribution should be 6 into 2 and not 2 into 6. अच्छा attempt ये अगले वाला है 4 into 2 fine attempt any 4 ठीक है जी attempt any 4 ठीक है ये ठीक है आपके केस में अब देखिए ये वाला है answers should be comprehensive and criteria for valuation क्या होती है is the content but not length of the answer ये तो होना ही नहीं चाहिए you are expecting a correct answer from the comprehensive answer. Criteria for evaluation is the content but not length of the answer. क्या कहना चाहते हो? ये correct? There, user explain they all at understanding level. Rest of these are what define, differentiate. Define वाला अगर define कर देते हैं तो remembering है, differentiate कर दे रहे हैं, understanding है, list कर देते हैं तो remembering है. So kindly see all questions are only at the remembering and understanding level. We are not going beyond it. So see whether the course which you are teaching, relational database management system, application क्यों हो नहीं सकती थी? Applying भी तो आना चाहिए था. That is missing from your question paper. Then let me quickly take up Priya or what? Yes, Priyanka या क्या इसका नाम लिखा था? Somebody Pooja. Okay, पूजा जी का पेपर है. This is मुल्लाना. अब देखिए इसमें ऊपर वाली चीजें तो ठीक है. Why course objective is given in the question paper? That is not required. I don't know whether why it is made compulsory by the university, but there is no need to give course objective in the beginning of the question paper and also the course outcome. This may be a copy for the internal use, but when it goes to the student, then course outcome, course objectives should not be written. Only the instructions should start from which are not here. Students have acquired no student. अच्छा वो मैं comment नहीं करूँगी, but यहाँ पे आ जाती हूँ. देखिए what major product results when 2-bromo 2-methyl butane is treated with sodium ethoxide, right? अब इसको मैं change क्यों नहीं कर सकती थी? Write the major product that results rather than putting it what? Provide the structure. किसको provide करना है? The student has to write, not provide. So correct it. It should be provide, not provide, but write. Then write a short note on. I think we should be clear. Hoffman's elimination reaction आप कह रहे हैं. क्या चाहते हैं, उस रिएक्शन को चाहते हैं, उसका पर्पस चाहते हैं, कहाँ पे वो फंक्शनल है या नहीं है, कौन सी सिचुएशन में एप्लीकेबल है, कहाँ होती है, कॉन्टेक्स्ट क्या है, what is it that we expect a learner to know. So write short note question should not appear in the question paper. Then देखिए आपने मार्किंग का भी उल्टा चला गया है, because there are 6 parts, so 6 into 1 होना चाहिए थे rather than 1 into 6. Then explain about the synthetic steps for I can't speak. Pyrolytic elimination. इन दो के आपने लिखा है सिस्टम सिंथेटिक स्टेप्स को. एक्सप्लेन अबाउट क्यों लिखना है, डिस्क्राइब द सिंथेटिक स्टेप्स फॉर दिस एंड दिस. शॉर्ट नोट अवॉइड कीजिए. व्हाट इज एंकीमेरिक असिस्टेंस. अब ये अगेन इज you need to modify, define or explain the concept of this. Why it is so called, why it is so called, ये भी उसी में कंबाइन हो जाएगा. given the condition required for, give the conditions for NGP. okay, then बाकी ठीक है, ये वाले क्वेश्चन ठीक है. So kindly take into account the paper you submitted. These are my observations, madam. And then we had a paper of Ashish. Okay, Ashish ji. हाँ जी, आशीष जी ने एंड टर्म एग्जामिनेशन लिया है. ऊपर वाला पोर्शन ठीक है एज फार एज जनरल इंफॉर्मेशन. नोट जो आपने दिया हुआ एनी 5 क्वेश्चन इंक्लूडिंग क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 विच इज कंपल्सरी. अटेम्प्ट एनी 5 क्वेश्चंस इंक्लूडिंग क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 क्यों लिखा जाता है मुझे नहीं समझ आया. नोट होना चाहिए क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 इज कंपल्सरी. अटेम्प्ट एनी 2 क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम ईच यूनिट, ये होना चाहिए था. आपके क्या हो गया इनको. अच्छा, अब देखिए यहाँ पे आपने अगेन व्हाट यूज किया हुआ है. कैन यू मॉडिफाई दिस क्वेश्चन. आई कुडंट बिकॉज आई डोंट बिलोंग टू द डिसिप्लिन मैथमेटिक्स, सो आई कुडंट फाइंड व्हाट इज द कोफिशिएंट ऑफ दिस इन द एक्सपेंशन ऑफ दिस. कोफिशिएंट और कैलकुलेट द कोफिशिएंट ऑफ दिस इन द एक्सपेंशन ऑफ दिस. इसी तरह आपका व्हाट आर एप्लीकेशंस ऑफ नंबर थ्योरी इन, तो इसको मॉडिफाई करने की जरूरत है. स्टेट एनी 2 एप्लीकेशंस ऑफ नंबर थ्योरी इन कंप्यूटर साइंस, इसको मॉडिफाई करने की जरूरत है. रेस्ट मैथमेटिक्स के पेपर में आई हैव नथिंग मोर, बट फिर आपने डिस्कस यूज किया है विच कैन बी अवॉइडेड. डिस्कस हैसेस डायग्राम टू रिप्रेजेंट अ पोसेट. सो डिस्कस की बजाय आप लिख सकते थे एक्सप्लेन हैसेस डायग्राम टू रिप्रेजेंट अ पोसेट. देन व्हाट आर LB GLB. So expand the terms LUB and GLB with the help of an example. You don't need to include illustrate through an example. And then the division of marks, you have already given 3 and 5. You have nicely done that. What is public key cryptography? तो ये भी, इसको भी what हटाना है आपको पेपर में से. बाकी ठीक है, बढ़िया. Then write, बाकी सब ठीक है आपके क्वेश्चन पेपर में. These are 2 to 3 minor things which you need to pay attention to. अगली बारी जब बनाओगे तो avoid that. डॉक्टर जगन, ओके, ये आपका पेपर है. ओके जी, ये क्वेश्चन पेपर आपने टाइम भी आई थिंक यू शुड ऑल्सो रिमाइंड 15 minutes आर देयर. डॉक्टर जगन, आपका ये पेपर मैं देख रही थी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक. तो अब देखिए यहाँ आपने क्वेश्चन इंक्लूड किया है. आंसर ऑल क्वेश्चंस, ये तो आपने नोट दे दिया, इंस्ट्रक्शन हो गई. स्टेट एंड राइट गॉसला. अब स्टेट कर दिया या राइट कर दिया वो तो एक ही बात है. व्हाट इज इट दैट यू आर एक्सपेक्टिंग फ्रॉम द लर्नर. जी डॉक्टर जगन, आर यू विद मी? इज ही अवेलेबल? डॉक्टर जगन है कि नहीं? अगर नहीं है तो हम इनका पेपर छोड़ लेते हैं फॉर द टाइम बिंग. जी, नॉट हियर. ओके, नॉट हियर। चलो कहाँ गए, मैं ही गुम हो गई। रोल नंबर कहाँ, ये था ना पेपर। ओके, ये क्या हुआ, इट इज द पेपर गॉन। ओके, ये था। तो देखिए इसमें एक क्वेश्चन है स्टेट एंड राइट। अब लॉ इज नेवर डिफाइंड, law is always stated, there is no definition of the law, so avoid this define beyond Savrat law. One need to correct state law. Brief the characteristics of diamagnetic material. This is a question of 2 marks. How many characteristics you want the person to write? If they are limited, then okay. If not limited, state the number of characteristics to be written. Then derive the equation हो गया. Then what is displacement current? क्या लिखना है, डिफाइन करना है, क्या चाहते हो वो क्लैरिफाई करो. ये चीजें इसमें मिसिंग है. एक्सप्लेन एंड डिफाइन. थिंग्स आर नॉट एक्सप्लेन्ड एंड डिफाइंड. जब आपने एक्सप्लेन कर दिया, definition will automatically be there because a person gradient of scalar, or you can say simply write explain the properties of the following. अगर आप definition चाहते हैं, properties की definition चाहते हैं, then enlist the properties and define them. Enlist the properties and define. वो clear करो क्या चाहते हो. Then देखिए यहाँ पे इनमें भी choices काफी हैं. वो कहते हैं कि हमारा बोर्ड चाहता है ऐसे ही बनाते हैं. Explain Ampere circuital law and its applications with relevant expressions. अब 13 नंबर दिए हैं, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन नहीं दी है. इसी तरह क्वेश्चंस के पार्ट्स हैं इनके, उसमें नंबर डिवीजन इज मिसिंग. अब ये नरेट नहीं होता, नरेट द फिनोमिना रिटन टेस्ट में नहीं हो सकता. आप एक्सप्लेन कर सकते हैं, डिस्क्राइब कर सकते हैं, बट यू कैन नॉट नरेट द फिनोमिना. So I think these are and mark distribution, pay attention to it. Then I had ये भी वही है ना, हाँ जी, roll number वाला. Okay, then we have Dr. Seema. Dr. Seema Singh, papers is there. कुछ मैं मिस करूंगी, टाइम मेरे पास उतना ही रह गया. But anyway, Dr. Seema's paper. This was communication skill, midterm examination, second semester. ठीक है, so इसलिए कॉलेज का नाम नहीं है, कोई बात नहीं, पेपर कोड है, कोर्स है. अब देखिए ये ना चीजें स्ट्रीमलाइन करने की जरूरत है. अभी सब्जेक्ट वी डोंट यूज, वी से कोर्स एंड वी यूज द टाइटल कोर्स कोड. तो काइंडली अगर करिकुलम में ऐसे है तो चलेगा, but one should use the terminology which is widely acceptable. Course and course code. Time ठीक है, maximum marks ठीक है. Attempt question number 1, which is why it is written attempt question number 1. Simply say question number 1 is compulsory and attempt any two questions from the remaining. बस ये थोड़ा modify कर लीजिएगा अपनी instructions को. Dr. Seema, are you with me?
Yes, ma'am, I'm there, ma'am.
Okay.
In fact, you know,
okay.
ma'am, I was given this template and I was supposed to use it as it is because this was passed on to me by the university examination.
Never
cell.
mind, never mind.
I've just
That's
used
why
the
I am
similar
saying that
instructions.
people have been making wrong use. तो
Yeah.
ये किसी वक्त अगर आप कहीं अपने डिपार्टमेंट में या बोर्ड ऑफ स्टडीज में आपको मौका मिलता है, तो you can bring in the parity. Course and course code is the word which is widely acceptable.
Okay, ma'am. Right.
हाँ
I
जी.
get it,
अभी
ma'am.
आप देखिए आपके क्वेश्चन पेपर में द वेरी फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन 5 पार्ट्स हैं. डिस्कस इन दिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट. और डिस्कशन नहीं यूज करना. वी आर नॉट अलाउइंग पीपल टू डिस्कस एनीथिंग. Then non-verbal communication is more important than verbal communication. Explain as to or justify कर लिख दीजिए. Why की जगह justify.
Justify. Okay.
हाँ जी. Discuss briefly the technique. Explain briefly the techniques. अब देखिए ये 2 नंबर क्या है. तो how many techniques you want student to write? You will use to conduct an official meeting. Write or explain briefly any 2 techniques you will use to conduct an official meeting. Make it more objective. Then short note on. अब 2 नंबर के क्वेश्चन में शॉर्ट नोट क्यों मांग रहे हैं? अब टेलीफोन एटिकेट में any two important considerations for the use of telephone. Okay,
Okay.
fine. Modify. How is a dictionary different from a thesaurus? Simply put it, differentiate between a dictionary and a thesaurus,
Thesaurus.
right? Or
Right.
state any two major differences between a dictionary and a thesaurus.
Thesaurus.
Right. Then what is a group discussion? What are the objectives? Elaborate effective strategies. Total 5 नंबर है. पहले तो क्वेश्चन है व्हाट नहीं यूज करना.
हाँ
ठीक
जी.
है, आप
Right.
स्पेसिफाई करिए क्या चाह रहे हैं. स्टेट द ऑब्जेक्टिव्स, डिफाइन और एक्सप्लेन द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ ग्रुप डिस्कशन, है ना. इलेबोरेट ठीक है, इलेबोरेट इफेक्टिव स्ट्रेटजीज कितनी. अब 3
Right.
पार्ट्स में नंबर कैसे डिवाइड कर रहे हो.
Right. I get that, ma'am.
हाँ जी, अगेन डिस्कस यूज कर लिया आपने, उसको हटा दीजिए. देन देयर आर 2 पार्ट्स, फिर नंबर की डिवीजन नहीं है. फिर शॉर्ट नोट आ गया, शॉर्ट नोट नहीं लेना. देन व्हाट आर द 7 C's ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन. Enlist the full form of 7 C's of communication.
Yes, ma'am. I get it, ma'am. In fact, after the session from you, I think there's a lot of clarity now on how to, phrase the questions
Yes.
and to test all the various parameters, as you've said, some remembering
जी.
skills and
अब
some
देखिए,
understandings. And now
आपने
there's a lot of clarity.
7 C's,
down.
just a minute, 7 C's पूछे हैं. 2 नंबर का सवाल है, कैसे नंबर डिवाइड करोगे. उतने नंबर दो जितनी आपने चीजें पूछी है, या 2 नंबर है, मैक्सिमम एनी 4 C's पूछ लीजिए.
Okay.
Why all 7, है ना.
Right.
बाकी ठीक है, ये क्वेश्चन ठीक है आपके जो बाकी अप्लाइंग पे है. तो आपका रिमेम्बरिंग, अंडरस्टैंडिंग एंड अप्लाइंग लेवल पे एंड जस्टिफाई करा रहे हो, पर नंबर 2 है वो मुझे थोड़ा सा खड़क रहा है. तो वो इवैल्यूएशन पे नहीं जा रहा, वो अंडरस्टैंडिंग लेवल पे ही क्वेश्चन रह रहे हैं. Right?
Thank you so much for your wonderful feedback on this paper, ma'am. I'll definitely
you're
benefit
welcome.
from this.
I think next we'll take up Dr. Murli's paper because these are some of the paper which I received in the morning. अभी देखती हूँ कहाँ खुलता है. रूपाली जी का खुल गया. चलो रूपाली जी का ले लेते हैं पहले. This is also on communication skills. अब रूपाली जी, कम्युनिकेशन स्किल में पेजर, मोबाइल फोन का कोई ये नॉट अलाउड ये लिखा हुआ है. मुझे लग रहा है अगेन दिस इज अ कॉमन प्रैक्टिस ऑफ राइटिंग दिस. ये तो बच्चों को एंट्री होने से पहले दिस इज एप्लीकेबल. ना तो पेजर अलाउड है एग्जामिनेशन हॉल में, ना मोबाइल फोन अलाउड है. तो ये यहाँ क्वेश्चन पेपर पे क्यों आना है, इसको अवॉइड कर ले सकते हैं. अब देखिए अगेन सम ऑफ द क्वेश्चन स्टार्टिंग विद व्हाट दे नीड टू बी मॉडिफाइड. देन जैसे आपने लिखा है व्हाई डू मैन नीड इट, डिफाइन कम्युनिकेशन. व्हाई डू मैन नीड इट, तो कैन यू राइट इट, एक्सप्लेन द सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन फॉर ह्यूमन बीइंग्स. दैट वुड बी मोर अप्रोप्रिएट. हाउ डू दे वर्क, ये क्या बात हुई. नेम सम मॉडर्न डिवाइसेस ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन. हाउ डू दे वर्क. अब ये 4 नंबर का क्वेश्चन है, कितनी डिवाइसेस. मुझे 6 पता है, मैं 6 की लिखूंगी कि हाउ डू दे वर्क, तो कैसे डिवाइड करोगे. रिस्ट्रिक्ट द नंबर ऑफ डिवाइसेस एंड या कहिए नेम एनी 4 डिवाइसेस, एक्सप्लेन द फंक्शन ऑफ एनी 2. फिर नंबर कैसे डिवाइड करोगे, 1 1 1 देते जाओगे. सो काइंडली सी टू इट कि आपने मार्क्स जो दिए हैं और जो क्वेश्चन में आप आंसर चाह रहे हैं, हाउ यू कैन मैच द मार्क्स विद द आंसर्स. देन व्हाट शुड एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन टू डू टू ओवरकम इट्स बैरियर्स. इट्स बैरियर्स, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में तो बहुत सारे बैरियर्स होते हैं. प्रोडक्टिविटी में बैरियर हो सकते हैं, हायरिंग ऑफ पीपल में बैरियर, पर आप तो कम्युनिकेशन में चाहते हो ना. सो द क्वेश्चन शुड हैव बीन एक्सप्लेन what should an organize, explain any 2 strategies to overcome the barriers in communication. Make it specific. Then change the following into ये application पे है, ठीक है. बाकी ठीक है. I think rest of the things are okay with me. ये आपका क्रिएटिंग पे आ गया है, बिकॉज दे हैव टू सी द फोटोग्राफ एंड क्रिएट अ स्मॉल स्टोरी बेस्ड ऑन दिस. फाइन, ठीक है, बाकी ठीक है. प्लस please make pay attention to these things that you can improve the quality of your paper. Now over to कौन सा ले लें, कौन है, एक मिनट. श्री मुनीश्वर. ओके, श्री मुनीश्वर कहाँ पे है? हाँ जी, नहीं ये तो मुनीश है. ओके, दिस इज मुनीश. नो, दिस इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड. मुनीश तो हो गया ना. मुनीश्वर ये कहाँ गए? आई थिंक आई मिस्ड द पेपर समवेयर. मैंने कर तो लिया था इनका. व्हाट इज द नेम गिवन? नो, इट इज नॉट अवेलेबल विद मी. प्रियंका. ओके, प्रियंका जी, आर यू देयर?
Yes, ma'am.
मैडम प्रियंका. ओके मैम, आपके केस में एक तो इंस्ट्रक्शंस जनरल इंफॉर्मेशन में आ गई हैं. तो काइंडली जनरल इंफॉर्मेशन जो इंस्ट्रक्शंस हैं, दे शुड अपीयर आफ्टर द जनरल इंफॉर्मेशन. ठीक है, ये एक ध्यान रखिएगा. हाँ जी, ये फॉर्मेट फिक्स्ड है. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Format fixed है हमारा.
Oh God. Okay. अच्छा, सेक्शन ए आपने मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चंस दिए हैं. अब देखिए, जब मल्टीपल चॉइस, मैं आइटम पे अभी कमेंट नहीं कर रही हूँ, बट व्हेन यू राइट मल्टीपल चॉइस आइटम्स, सर्टेन थिंग्स यू हैव टू रिमेम्बर कि जो ऑल्टरनेटिव देते हैं वो हम अल्फाबेटिकली ऑर्डर कर सकते हैं, तो उनको कर लीजिए. जहां पे आपका बोथ वाला आता है तो उसके आंसर पहले आ जाने चाहिए. फॉर एग्जाम्पल ये देखिए, अब मुझे इसका आंसर बताइए. सॉलिड कंटेंट ऑफ क्या है जी? मुझसे पढ़ा नहीं जाएगा.
Parenteral suspension.
Suspension is between this and this, more than this, all of these. आंसर क्या है? राइट आंसर
Ma'am, first option.
ये गलत हो गया. फिर ऑल ऑफ दीज जो आपने दिया है, ये आप अवॉइड कर सकते हैं इन केस इट इज नॉट द राइट आंसर. ठीक है, क्योंकि ये इसका मतलब है आपके पास 3 ही ऑल्टरनेटिव हैं, चौथा ऑल्टरनेटिव क्रिएट करना चाहिए. अब देखिए, जो नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन है उसमें राइट आंसर क्या है? द डेंसिटी ऑफ द डिस्पर्स्ड फेज इज मोर देन दैट ऑफ ए dispersion medium according to क्या equation? The screening is, हाँ जी, Stokes equation. The steaming is at the center, in downward direction, in upward direction, in both direction. अभी ये जो आपका आंसर आया ना, in both the direction, ये डी ऑल्टरनेटिव होना चाहिए था और डाउनवर्ड अपवर्ड पहले आ जाने चाहिए थे. ठीक है.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
हाँ जी, ये पहले नहीं आ सकता, या फिर आप पहले लिखते इन डाउनवर्ड आपका ये भी एक क्वेश्चन है जिसमें ऑल ऑफ देम लिखा है. तो इज दिस द राइट आंसर?
Yes, ma'am.
फ्लॉकुलेशन ऑफ ये राइट आंसर. ठीक है. हाँ जी, अब देखिए इसमें ये कुछ क्वेश्चंस में व्हाट आ गया है, कुछ क्वेश्चंस में डिस्कस आ गया है. इसको काइंडली मॉडिफाई कर लीजिए. ठीक है.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
मार्क
Definitely.
डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन आपकी नहीं आई है. 10 नंबर के है, आपने 3 चीजें पूछी हैं या 2 चीजें पूछी हैं, तो वेदर इक्वल मार्क्स आर टू बी गिवन और ये मार्क डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का ध्यान रखना है. यहाँ पे भी आपने 2 टेस्ट मार्क्स. हाँ जी
मैम, ये जनरल इंस्ट्रक्शन में था
क्या?
मार्क्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन.
जनरल इंस्ट्रक्शन में तो आपने नहीं दिया. क्वेश्चन पेपर इज डिवाइडेड इनटू एबीसी सेक्शन. अटेम्प्ट ऑल क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम सेक्शन ए. नहीं, अटेम्प्ट एनी 2 क्वेश्चन लिखा है ना, अटेम्प्ट एनी 1 क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम सी. लेकिन मार्क डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन जैसे आपने कहा, इसके आपने 2 क्वेश्चन करने हैं. ये 10 नंबर का है ना. तो ये आपने लिखा है वाटर एसोसिएशन कोलाइड्स. मेंशन द मैकेनिज्म ऑफ forming of my cells with one suitable example. तो 2 पार्ट है ना, तो क्या 5, ये
Yes,
कितने
ma'am.
नंबर दोगे? कितने नंबर दोगे? 2.5?
नो मैम, डेफिनेटली मैं करेक्ट करूंगी उसको नेक्स्ट टाइम के लिए.
सिर्फ ये देखना है कि आप कितने मार्क्स का ये क्वेश्चन बना रहे हो, ठीक है? तो
Yes,
अकॉर्डिंगली इंडिकेट अगेंस्ट द क्वेश्चन, कितने मार्क्स का है ये, डिवीजन दे दीजिए. दैट इज व्हाट इज नीडेड. रेस्ट इज फाइन. थैंक यू.
थैंक यू मैम.
Then we have Priyanka ji. Are you there? मैडम प्रियंका. मुझे लग रहा है टाइम हो गया. ऐसे करूंगी, बाकी जिनके मैंने करे हुए हैं या जिनके रह गए हैं, I'll be sending an email copy to you with my comments. I've written the comments on your question papers, but you can see कि हम छोटी छोटी, ये बड़े minor mistakes हैं जो हो रही हैं, but these really affect the quality of question paper. So kindly जो अपना process है उसको ध्यान से एडिट जरूर कीजिए in view of your learning outcomes. लर्निंग आउटकम्स हमेशा सामने रखो, कोर्स आउटकम्स सामने रखो, एंड देन ट्राई टू राइट अ क्वेश्चन फर्स्ट, डिजाइन एन आइटम और अ क्वेश्चन, एंड देन उसको उतनी बार रिव्यू करो जितनी बार आपको क्लियर नहीं होता है. एंड वंस यू आर श्योर कि ये ठीक है, तब किसी की एक की ओपिनियन ले लीजिए. ठीक है जी. Thank you so much for your comments. Any question at this stage? We have already exceeded the time. So anything you would like to add to? Nahi? Sab gaye? No. So friends, thank you very much for being a part of this session. Wish you all
So thank you, ma'am. Participants have written very good comments
best.
in the
Maybe
chat
we
box
need
about
again.
your presentation. So,
Chalo, thank you so much.
And हाँ जी.
I
So
hope
thank you, ma'am.
ठीक है जी,
अभी
वेलकम.
हाँ जी, अभी डॉक्टर मेनन का फोन आया था तो मैं उनको आपकी वॉइस सुनाई थी, बिकॉज ही सेड
he has given me a call. तो मैंने उनको बोल के भी दिया. I stopped my session and said कि I'm in a class. But वो बार बार आ रहा है उनको कॉल.
फिर मुझे पूछते कौन से कोर्स में आपके यहाँ आए हुए. मैं कहा नहीं ऑनलाइन. कहते ऑनलाइन क्या होता है.
अच्छा ठीक है जी. थैंक यू.